You are listening to the Freedom Podcast with Van Moody. Our desire is that you begin to live in freedom every day. Freedom in your mind, freedom in your finances, freedom from the external pressures of life. Prepare to be transformed as we seek to be free, mind, body, and soul. Let's get started.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us on the Freedom Podcast. And we are super excited that you are with us today as we are going to tackle the subject that we focus on at least once a month, and that is on financial freedom. If you are new to the Freedom Podcast, then you should know that on this podcast, we cover a variety of topics that are important for freedom in every area of your life. We want you to live your very best life. And one of the things that we know is that you cannot do that apart from a conversation about financial freedom. And so once a month, I am honored to really tackle this topic, but I don't do it by myself. I'm always joined by my friend, my brother, the co-host with the most, George Thompson, the financial Maven, all the way from LA. And so on this podcast, we're almost covering the whole United States. George is in LA, I'm in Birmingham, and we are so honored to have you today. Hey, George, how you doing, bro? How's it going in LA, man?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready for I'm super excited about today's topic and Isaac being here today.
Yeah, well, let me introduce our guest, because on today's podcast, we've got an absolutely incredible thought leader, another financial maven, Isaac Cooper. Isaac and I connected many, many years ago in very similar circles. I'm going to allow him to tell his story in a moment. But Isaac is not only a financial leader, but doing some absolutely incredible work in the realm of helping this next generation of young people to understand the importance of financial stewardship and really how to position themselves to win. And the reason we wanted Ike to join us on today's episode is that's what we want to talk about. Now, George and I often will teach you financial principles that are biblical and also very practical so that you can achieve financial freedom, so that you can begin to change your financial future, to really be intentional about wealth creation and legacy building. But we know that we can't effectively do that without also thinking about the next generation. The Bible says that we are to train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they should not depart from it. The Bible also tells us that a great man or a great woman leaves an inheritance for his children's children. The point of both of those verses is when it comes to wealth creation and legacy building, and even just financial literacy and empowerment, you absolutely can't do it without thinking about the next generation, which means it can't just be about what we do. We have to be intentional about teaching the next generation and empowering our kids. And that's what Isaac is engaged in. He's doing some absolutely incredible work here in Birmingham and around through his firm. And so, Isaac, welcome to the Freedom Podcast. Thanks, brother, for being here. We are so honored to have you today and looking forward to this conversation. I want you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit of your story, because you've got a very fascinating story as a former athlete, now financial leader. So welcome, bro. Introduce yourselves to our audience and those that follow us here on the Freedom Podcast.
Absolutely. And thank you for allowing me to join. Shout out to the leadership you and George have been able to manifest, not only from the pulpit, but just also just representing what financial freedom looks like in real life. But my name is Isaac Cooper. I'm originally, I'm Jamaican by blood, Floridian by birth. What brought me to Birmingham, Alabama was actually a football scholarship. So rest in peace, Pat Sullivan. Sanford University is where I got my education. And to be completely honest, when I got to Sanford, I really didn't think about an education. I was thinking about going to the NFL. So if it was still up to me, I'll still have a jersey on, playing football. But unfortunately, injuries cut that short, right? Like that, and it really forced me to start thinking about two things. I tell folks that's when I really went through a true identity crisis, because in my opinion, I was really confusing, who God truly was. Like football was like my God, right? It dictated my emotions, how my value proposition. And so that immediate shift made me think about, all right, what are some of the things that I'm naturally good at, that I'm passionate about? And numbers has always been something that I enjoyed. Like I like doing math in my head. And it really came from just the journey of a Jamaican moving to the U.S. And so my mother didn't necessarily trust everyone. And I don't know if you've ever come across an angry Jamaican, but it's not a sight you would want to see. So we may be in Walmart or at a grocery store, and we're checking out, and they provide the change to her, and she wouldn't necessarily trust it. And if those have gone to Jamaica, yes, U.S. dollars is a currency you can use there, but there's also Jamaican dollars as well. And so that transition was still something she was adjusting to. And then lo and behold, the person she's fussing at Walmart, I go to school with her son. So some of the things I started doing was, all right, let me calculate this change in my head to give her peace and also let her know that that number is correct. And I started doing it, and I would say it out loud, and then change due would pop up, and I would say, oh my goodness, I got it right. Right. And it just created this level of confidence with numbers. So fast forward, football is over with. Well, let me back up because I still got cleats in my truck. Fast forward, football, the dream of going to the NFL, essentially forced me to really think about, all right, what does life look like, after ball? And I got an internship at a Fortune 100 company. And I was green getting in there. I didn't know how to tie a tie. I never really put on a suit before. If they sent me an email, I'm gonna come find you and tell you my response, because I was, worried about grammatical errors. But I worked at this company in which I am sitting next to individuals. And when we think about wealth and creating wealth and receiving wealth, I've never met someone that was a recipient of it. Right. And I literally was able to see the behind the scenes intentionality of the generation that wasn't able to even witness what their discipline yielded. So through that, it created an appetite to want to make sure people knew this information. But the more I learned about the world of the financial industry, the more I realized the folks that had access to this type of information were only the people that had the money to move it forward. Right. And so only if you were in a top tax bracket, that was the only way in which you were able to have access to someone that had, one, has the acumen, but two, has your best interest in mind. Right. And so the lower you get on income, now you have less individuals that, the money may be the motivation instead of their morals. Right. And so we saw that there was a void to where there needs to be empathy for those in the lower tax brackets, but also we can still hold acumen for those in the top tax brackets. How can we establish a solution that allows us to be able to essentially meet those where they are, but also get them from one tax bracket to another, right? We don't want you to stay where you're at. We want to be able to mobilize. And so through that's allowed us to really be a sponge on some of the problems, but also be very specific on how we address it. So as we see the reactive work that we have to do, right, the information folks that didn't have in school, providing them with, we'll just say someone to help guide them during their financial decisions. Then there's the proactive work. All right. How are we equipping this next generation of leaders to make sure that they have access to the information, knowing that each day that goes by, technology is essentially usurping some of the principles that we would implement when it pertains to finances. And so unless someone is implementing or sharing this information, they're going to get all the info from TikTok. And I don't know if there's any type of compliance with TikTok that speaks to, if this is a financial advisor or not. And so it has been truly incredible to be able to see how much these students already know. It's been incredible to hear what's inside of them in regards to what they want to unlock in life. But also too, I would say the third, one of the unique things about our program is that we include the adults, the faculty and the staff, and the parents. And so we don't want to sow the seed in the student, and then as soon as they get home, it's uprooted. So we talk about, hey, you're going to learn about the rule of 72 today. And, Jimmy goes home and says, hey, Mom, I learned about the rule of 72. She may say, rule of 72, those dishes, and then, call me, once you're done. Right. And so now that disconnect did not allow that information to essentially flow, because, true wealth is really the conversations at the dinner table, not necessarily what's, the asset in your bank account.
Right.
Man, that's so good.
Wow.
I mean, your story is
that's really
so
good, Isaac.
fascinating.
That you're doing this.
Yeah. Go ahead, George.
So, so one of the things is that I just wanted to bring was that you talked about teaching the kids, but also teaching the adults. So what's really, really critical, and what we've been talking a lot on our show about, is having the whole family involved. As you know, there's something called generational wealth, We said just as Bishop Moody just said, just really, in the Bible it says, a good person leaves a generational wealth for their children's children. In order for that to pass, generational wealth, two things have to pass. One is the money, but the other is the wisdom, not just information, but actually just wisdom. See, that balloons come up every time we bring that up. So what happens is how we pass wisdom is experienced knowledge. Yeah, so we're going to have experienced knowledge. So how are some ways that you do that with the Financial Freedom Project? How do you do that when you're teaching the kids and the adults, because it's like a family thing, like you're teaching them like at Christmas time, like, hey, let's, instead of buying, and I'm not naming the shoe brands, but buying these shoes, let's look at getting the shoes, but not the $250 pair. Maybe let's get a pair that's a little bit less, the practical side, and then let's own a share of stock. What are some things that you do with the Financial Freedom Project to get that underway?
Yeah, excellent question. So each topic that we've been able to design, so our curriculum is proprietary. And there are three elements that we wanted to make sure that we honed in on. And one you just spoke to was, what is the at-home application? So even as we talk about budget in the classroom, what is something that this student can take home and a parent can apply to keep them on that journey with them? A few ways. So one, our workshops allow us to be able to be very specific with the adults. So we got a workshop coming up on Tuesday on taxes, right? So we know that this is tax season time. This is a way for us to be able to get ahead of some of the ways in which, unfortunately, the adults that may be getting taken advantage of because they may not have a CPA or an accountant, right? They may have to go to some of these brick and mortars. So being able to bring in different experts to speak on aspects of their financial journey. So if it's taxes, if it's investing, we had Regions Bank underwriters, mortgage underwriters. We brought them into a workshop to ask them like, hey, everybody wants to buy a house, but everybody can't get through underwriting. Let's talk about some of the nuances, right, that get people tripped up. We'll have another workshop for individuals that are looking to purchase a home, but they may not have the income for a $300,000-$400,000 house. Well, let's look at the land bank, right? Let's start looking at a piece of land to where you can get into this type of wealth building activities, even though you have low discretionary income. So the workshops is a way in which we could start. We're able to have that macro type of conversation with a large group. And then we provide one-on-one consultations. So no cost, one-on-one consultations. And what we love about that is that, like, we essentially have a script, so we can also train individuals to be able to sit and listen and then translate some of the needs that they have. So it could be house on fire needs. Hey, I need rent assistance, utility assistance, diaper assistance. Or it may be, I just sold my first home. I moved to Birmingham. I'm working within Birmingham City Schools. I just had my student loans forgiven. So even last year, you asked that. Even last year, we had close to $600,000 of student loans that were forgiven because we had the first certified student loan professional in the state of Georgia walk them through the application step by step. And literally, I'm getting emails. Isaac, thank you so much. I'm a single mother with 2 kids. This just freed up $500 a month. Isaac, thank you so much. So we want to find tangible ways in which we can, in a word that I like to use when it pertains to money, I like to call it oxygen. Because whenever you don't have money, you feel like you can't breathe. Your things are restricted. And whenever you feel like you can't breathe, now there's this feverish type of activity that may not be in your best interest, right? If you don't have the type of control. But if we can free up that oxygen to where they can breathe and look around and take in the scenery or what they're looking to get accomplished, we're seeing a lot of wins within that. And so each topic that we have in the classroom, budgeting, investments, credit, which is a huge one. I do got to shout this out. One of the schools, and I'm gonna shout out the school, Ramsey High School. There was a student in there. He has an 800 credit score. The reason why is because of his parents. And I said, as soon as you go home, I want you to hug them and hold them for at least 2 minutes, because this is going to unlock a level of it is because unfortunately we've seen on the other side to where, because during our class, we actually, if you're old enough to pull your credit, we'll walk them through that process. We've seen situations where it's like, how did I get this on my credit score? I was 5 years old when that happened. Yep. Well, I don't want to point no fingers, but So those are the ways in which we, the one-on-one consultations, the topic-based workshops in which we bring in experts, and then we align it with the week in which they are receiving the info. And then on Fridays, our newsletters go out to inform the educators and the parents of the students on what they learned in the classroom and some tangible tips that they can use that day.
That's awesome.
Man, that's good. We're going to pause for a moment for a little bit of resources from our sponsors. And then when we come back, Isaac, I want to ask you to share what you think the top 3 principles are for kids to begin to get on a firm foundation and build as it relates to financial freedom. We'll be right back.
Introducing A Year to a Better You, the transformative devotional that guides you on a year-long journey of self-discovery. Each day, you will learn more about God, His Word, and yourself. A Year to a Better You features a daily devotional and a soap journal perfectly paired to help you learn more about transformation and transparency as Christ followers, your freedom and identity in Christ, and most of all, the power that you have because of His faithful love. Visit vanmoody.org today and start your journey with a new year to a better you.
All right, family, we're back on the Financial Freedom Podcast. George is with us, and our special guest is Isaac Cooper with just his firm and the work that they're doing here and around Birmingham and beyond with the Financial Freedom Project. It is incredible. Now, Isaac, before we went on a short break, I wanted you to think about, because your program teaches a lot. You've got an exhaustive curriculum that walks kids and parents through a number of things, but you've got parents and individuals that are listening across, age spectrums to this podcast. And I know that some of them are wondering, all right, where do I get started? If I've been listening to this podcast and I've been doing things as an adult, trying to get my finances in order to achieve freedom and, legacy and wealth creation, what are the top 3 things that you would advise the listeners to really focus on as it relates to their kids, their young people? What should they lean into with them so that they can help make sure that they're building the right way, even with their kids in mind?
Absolutely. Excellent question. And I'm going to try to go elementary, middle, high school, and try to capture as many age brackets within those 3 prisms. First, one of the things that I would definitely share is that your kids are listening. So they may be in the other room. They may have their earbuds in, but they're hearing the conversation about money. Prime example, we're in a 4th grade class. I asked the students, I said, if I leave my wallet at home and we're at Chick-fil-A and I'm about to pay for something to eat, how am I going to pay for it? Oh, Mr. Cooper, you just use your Apple Watch. You got Apple Pay? Well, Mr. Cooper, all you got to do is and they already know about some of the digital ways in which money is happening. Also, because of these games and Roblox, digital assets. Hey, can I get money to purchase these skins? So they're already in a world of where money and purchasing. So we need to start the conversation now, because a majority of financial freedom, as we all know, is actually tied to habits.
Yes.
Right? Is tied to a continuous, repetitive action in which all the other things that could disrupt it, we got to be clear on that first. So one of the things we ask the students, and I think it's a good conversation to have within your household, is if you had an unlimited amount of money and an unlimited amount of time, what problem would you solve?
Mm-hmm.
And what that does, it opens up their mind into the things in which they would like to align their time to if they had the resources. Because the quicker we can identify what makes you tick, the sacrifice that you may have to make financially to be able to get there, it's a lot easier because it's your dream, right? So it's your dream. You said you wanted to go to this place, that place, or get this done. Now what it takes to be able to get there is so that's a really good question to see what they've been able to see. But I think starting out, so my son, he's 4 years old. And anytime that I give him money, I ask him, all right, what do you do with your money? Save it. What do you do with your money? Save it. What do you do with I wanted him to get that down, because the best investors are great savers. Because whenever you invest, you just go from one pocket to another. Right. So I just need him to get into the habit of, I received $1. I need to put something somewhere, right? So that can be a very simple strategy if you want to reward them on basic activities. And then the other side to it, whenever he gets a meal or some chips or some fries, yeah, daddy finna come in and get a few. And I say taxes every time. Taxes.
Right.
taxes. Every single time. He got candy.
That's a changer right there. My dad did that to me. I used to have I grew up in Minnesota in a very cold climate. And what my dad used to do was I had this snowplow business. I had this whole thing. Actually, it was an options contract. I used to, do the whole neighborhood, charge people $30 a month. If it snowed one time, I'd do it. If it snowed 30 times, I'd do it. So I was doing an option right off the bat. But my dad did that. He did that so that when I got a paycheck, because some people, when they get their first paycheck, they're like, state, federal taxes.
Yep.
Like, what is all of this?
I'm like, FICA. I looked that up. The Federal Insurance Contributions Act. So let's say if you guys need time from Googling. But what you're doing is you're explaining that so well. You see me and Pastor Van are nodding our heads because what Isaac, what you're saying is you're modeling that to your children and doing all that stuff. And those things like Roblox is that to actually own stock in those companies, but it's just so interactive the way that you're saying it and that you're doing it together. And that's how they're walking. But see, you're not mentoring. What you do is you're modeling. You said they're listening to you. So actually when they're walking into those stores, they said, hey, I'm going to pay it. I'm just naming the restaurants that you go to. Then the question is that publicly traded? Because I got this. We did a event with Magic Johnson. We did this thing called Holiday Hope, and where we had all these companies came, and Mattel came and gave out American Girl dolls. You'll remember this one, Pastor Van, and they gave out Mattel toys. My daughter walked up to them and said, "Hey, Daddy, Mattel's here. We own stock in that company." And she's 9. All those people from Mattel that have it turned and looked at her and said, "Where's your dad?" They said, "We're not surprised. That's your dad." But you see how she's connecting products with stock. So what you're doing with your son, you said saving. See, so he's been saving, and then it's you're moving him into ownership. That was awesome.
That's right. That's
awesome.
right. It is one. I'll just use one quick example. One of the NFL players that we worked with some years ago, he got a $2 million bonus, and I never forget when he called me and he said, "Coop, what's all this FICA stuff, man? Like, where my money?" Like, literally. So now he lives in the state of California. So, he got hit across the head when it pertains to state taxes.
9.5.
So so that element of translation could have helped him if he just had that experience in a classroom. So elementary, those elements are good. Also, what we've seen is with our activities. So we'll put together a party, list out different things. Hey, this costs this costs this. You got $200. Now they're able to start differentiating. All right, what is a want? What is a need?
Yes.
And they start being creative. All right, put together a party, right? So it's a really, really good illustration. 8th grade, they're in this, or middle school, they're in this balance of, they may have a Cash App card, right? They may have some of these things in which, I'll be honest, there was a middle schooler. He had close to $30,000 in crypto. How he got it, I have no clue. But the fact that he was in that space of activity means that he's not the only one in that grade, right, that knows about some level of it. And so they're a little bit more turned on in regards of some of the financial principles. So I think really having a conversation with them on, and what I've seen is definitely those variable expenses in the home. Right. So, all right, what are your goals, Johnny? Well, I want to do this. I want to play baseball. Okay. Well, how many times I told you to turn that TV off? How many times I told you don't leave your light on? So now they can start playing a role when it pertains to the financial goals of the home. Right. Because in the pickup line at one of the schools, are you Mr. Cooper? Man, I love that class. This boy won't start. He'll come in the house, turn everything off because he said he want to go to Disney World. Like there is this now they're a part of it, but also as a parent, we got to start having the conversation with our kids. You don't got to tell them how much you make after tax, but I do think they need to be aware of that there is a dollar amount tied to their overall experience from renting or owning a home or the utilities or cable or net. There is a dollar amount tied to it, and the more, what we've seen, the more they know, the more empathy they have for their parent. So one of the games, and I'm sorry, I keep getting all excited. One of the games that we play, and this is something you could do at home. It's called playspent.org. PLAYSPENT.org. It is a free game. Ultimately, what it does, it puts you in a situation of a simulator. You have $1,000 to your name. It's a single parent, and each day there is situations they have to go. When I say that is the most interactive time in our classroom, and to where students are like, well, we don't have money for that. Well, I'm gonna pick this versus that. And we'll settle them at the end and say, well, your household may be going through this. You just didn't know it. So now when they go home, there's a level of awareness that they have that allows them to be able to say, hey, mom, you know what? I'm going to go cut some grass today instead of ask them, so it's a really good game. And if they have time to do that. And then, of course, for our seniors or for the older students, now it's more about preparation. Yeah. Right. So if you are in a financial space in which you have the type of assets to where gainfully employed, the fact that that young man at Ramsey had an 800 credit score is because his parents added him as an authorized user, which means they had good credit, right? Mm-hmm. So first, let's make sure that we are exemplifying the habits in our house. And then how can we, not necessarily a jump start, but more so preparation for these students that are about to transition out, because unfortunately, artificial intelligence and technology is taking jobs away at a fast rate. And so some of these students may shift into a type of opportunity that may be more entrepreneurship. So access to capital may be a critical component for them at some point. So these experiences that we've been able to see in a classroom, the richest ones come from them being able to be in a seat of the decision maker. Mm-hmm. And then they have to sit with, all right, no, I don't want those shoes. I want to get this now. Well,
you know how valuable what you're doing is, what you're teaching is so valuable that when you're talking. So the first thing is, so that's what you're saying, but listeners, I want you to say what he's not saying. Let me tell you what he's not saying.
Yeah.
He's really teaching them how to value money.
That's
and how to value time. So like, if I want to go do this, I'm going to do that. Like, in other words, it's better for me to buy this, so I'll be happy later, and to do this. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump up and run around the room. I can't. I don't have time. We're on the podcast. But then also you're teaching them how to delay gratification. Everybody say, delay gratification. Because you know that they have this thing in every kitchen. It's called a microwave. You can actually just, do this. And then, by the way, I ministered at this church. I preached at this church in Alabama. And I was preaching on a Sunday, the worship center. And I said, there's two types of people in the world. There are cooks that can cook food from scratch. And then there are something called food handlers. But now I'm a food handler. But now, because of the air fryer, I'm back in the game. You can see people trying to air fry their finances.
That's good.
Right. That's good. Learn how to be more efficient. And what you showed them today, everything you illustrated was they're valuing their money.
Absolutely.
They're valuing their time.
Yeah. And understanding that there's a cost to it.
So if God blesses you, are you going to do this or that? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No, I was going to say, and part of that value piece that I love is them understanding, that there is a cost associated with every decision. I often say that young people know the price of everything, but they don't know what it cost. And so understanding that there's a cost associated with every decision, and particularly, as parents, a lot of times what I love that you're doing is making sure that communication is happening, because a lot of parents shield their children from the cost associated with these things.
Yep.
And so these kids grow up with this sense of, in some ways.
So no, that's awesome. And also that interactive really game is that you're actually participating
on what that true cost is.
Yeah.
So then they make these random
one more question for you. Then
without really factoring in, this is
when
how
the gentleman he said
that
the
decision
NFL
is
received
going
$2
to affect something
million.
else.
My question is, did he really?
Yeah, and to your point, one of the because I know we talked about stocks too and assets. One of the elements that we saw, and this is really all God on how the analogy came to me real time in the class. And so we were talking about the stock market in middle school, and I asked the students to raise their hand and say, who's been to a flea market before?
Yep.
And this is before I'm trying to explain it to them. And I said, all right, whenever you go to the flea market, what do you see? Well, I can get this, I can get that. They start naming different things, right? So now they've been able to learn a stock is a share of a company. And then we get into the point of, all right, what is the stock market? We correlate. So, and so even within our homes, there's experiences that can correlate to the financial journey that they see right now. So if a flea market, you can go to one location and get multiple things. Well, the stock market is the same thing. You can go to one location and get multiple companies, right? And so what's happening is that even the facetious aspect of ownership, I just told a group of students, I said, now look, if you see Tim Cook at Starbucks, tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, look, you guys are doing well. Proud of you. Keep it up. Make sure you send that report on time. You own a share of the company, right? And so just to encourage that type of behavior, but also that mindset shift, as George mentioned, like, yo, let's not be consumers. Let's be producers of the information that you would want others to consume, and even on the same side when it pertains to an asset.
I love that. Well, George, I know what you're thinking. We need more time with Isaac. This has just been scratching the surface. I tell our listeners how they can find you, how they can connect with the Financial Freedom Project, and we're gonna wrap this episode up. But hey, for all of our partners, we got some bonus material coming, and I'm super excited. We're gonna jump into a bonus episode with Isaac Cooper, where we talk about, in light of everything that's happening right now with the dollar and rising but now falling interest rates, what are some important financial moves that we should be making as a family? So we're going to get into that. But for those of you that are not partners, definitely want to leave you with an opportunity to connect with Isaac and George and myself, as we are all focused on helping you to attain that financial freedom that we know that God has for you. So Ike, how can our listeners connect with you?
Absolutely. So our company website, IMC Financial Consulting, you can get there by planning, PLANNING, IMC.com, planningimc.com. And then if you want to check out how these students are learning in the classroom, you can go to our Financial Freedom Project page, which is imcffp.com. And then if you look at the social media handles, you'll be able to click those. You'll be able to see real time some of these activities: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. So imcffp.com for the in-class material, and then as well planningimc.com for our overall company and all the work that we do.
Incredible. George, we can't close without the people finding out how to connect with you, bro. Where is George?
All right. Yeah. You go to icanfindgeorge.com, or you go, because that's my 21-day fast start. Hey, I want to let everybody know I got the merch coming. So look, based on what we said today, look, I'm the world's greatest dad at 1/3 the price. See that? We're showing people how to save money. And then also when I do the offerings on Sunday, I got God is in the blessing business. You just go to georgebthompson.com and do that. And hey, I look forward to you guys doing the 21. Hey, being there, a lot of people are doing the financial fast where we're not wasting money, we're prioritizing, and we're walking through that. So we're doing the 21-day fast as well. God bless you. So you go to georgebthompson.com.
Incredible. And you can find out more information about the Financial Freedom Podcast and all of the things that we're doing through vanmoody.org, or you can go out to twccc.org. This has been a great podcast with Isaac Cooper. And once again, myself and my co-host, George Thompson, we hope that you will continue to grow with us and be focused and committed on your journey to financial freedom. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Freedom Podcast. If you find inspiration, education, or fulfillment in our episodes, consider becoming a partner. Your donation ensures that we will continue delivering quality content alongside some of today's leading experts. Connect with us by becoming a Freedom Friend, a Freedom Champion, or a Freedom Funder. Together, we will continue to produce content that provides hope and healing. Thank you. Your generosity is appreciated.